On this episode, we talk about everyone's favorite topic, money, with Brent Miller.
You're listening to the Dudes and Dads Podcast, a show dedicated to helping men be better dudes and dads by building community through meaningful conversation and storytelling. And now, here are your hosts, Joel DeMont and Andy Lehman.
Andy, my face is cold.
I see that you're missing some vital hair from your face.
And as I've discussed earlier, I've lost all my superpowers as well.
You're weak now.
I'm so weak.
So today is day one of actually growing that back.
Well, that's the thing, is this morning, the backstory on this is this morning I got up, we're recording on a Sunday, so earlier today I had to preach to a congregation, my people. And I got up this morning, I looked in the mirror, and I just looked at the beautiful mustache that I had. And I thought to myself, I'm getting attached to the mustache. I mean, I liked it. So in a weird way, I liked it. In a weird way, I liked it. But I was like, here's the deal. These people that I'm going to be standing up in front of have no idea that I've lost my beard. Most of them don't know that I've lost my beard. They also don't know that now I'm just sporting a mustache.
Lost your beard, though, sounds like you may have...
Like it was an accident?
You can't find it. Yeah, you don't know where it's at.
I tripped and a razor cut it off. No, it was taken from me by a 6-year-old boy. Not 6-year-old boy. It's even more. That's even worse. That's even worse. A 6th grade boy. Long story short, we did it for a youth event. Shaving my beard off was like a prize, and people got very excited about it, disturbingly so. Like the students were like, they're recording the whole thing and whatever. Did it on a Wednesday night youth gathering. Anyway, so lost my beard, kept the mustache though. But then this morning when I go to I'm like, oh, okay, I'm doing my morning thing and I'm looking in the mirror and I'm like, no one is going to be able to take me seriously. I'm preaching about Jesus here with this mustache.
Side note, we had lunch on Friday, and I couldn't take you seriously with it at lunch. It was really hard.
And we were having a serious meeting, and you're just like, dude, I can't even handle it.
I can't do this.
This time around, I should say, Jackie, to her credit, she did not react as strongly as the first time that I shaved off and had a mustache. I literally walked in the room. She goes, I can't even look at you. That's what she said to me. Can't even look at you.
But you're still married, so
still married. So yeah, the face is clean, and we're into that time of year, Andy, as we're here in November. The breeze gets a little chillier, and all I can think about is that my face is cold all the time. Because I'm talking to people, I just in the back of my mind, it's just like your face is cold, your face is cold, your face is cold.
So let me get this straight: no shave November, and you decided to shave. Like, how does that work?
I know it was poor. It was poor planning.
Poor time
on my part. But a razor will not touch my face for the rest of the time. So that's my commitment to you, because I know. Let's just be honest. Let's dig deep here. You feel slightly betrayed when I have a clean shaven face. You feel like I've stepped out of the brotherhood.
Wrong.
The brotherhood of the beard.
Our guest tonight has a beard. I have a beard. Yep. You look like your son Josiah here without a beard. That's
right. Everybody today was like, you look 10 years younger. It's like, oh my word. I don't even. So anyway, all that to say, thank you for listening to my beard lament. It's going to come back. By the end, we'll be in an okay spot by the end of November, and then come holiday season, I think, I think it'll be back to normal. I hope.
Awesome. Well, we have a really good guest tonight, but first, let's take a break, and when we get back, we'll hear from Brent Miller.
Dudes and Dads is supported by Everence Financial, helping individuals, organizations, and congregations with financial services built on a foundation of faith. Meet the local team at everence.com/Michiana. Securities offered through Concourse Financial Group Securities Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC.
Support for the Dudes and Dads podcast comes from Concrete Barber. Check out the full line of hair care products and book your next appointment at concretebarber.com.
And we're back.
Brent, welcome to the show. Glad to have you here.
Brent.
Hey. Glad to be here.
Hey. So here's the deal, Andy. As we like to say, we like to share all of our friends our friends with other people on this show. Brent is a friend. We'll call it a coworker in this case. And a colleague.
And a colleague of yours, because didn't you guys do baseball stuff together?
We've coached together.
Yep.
And here's the deal. This is the high praise that I want to say. Again, Brent has accomplished many things. He does important things for people. I 100% want to say all this. The deal is, though, this is where it really, I'm being serious about this. This is what really cuts the mustard for me. My son Aaron plays for Brent and really, really respects him. And here's the deal: if you get a 12-year-old to really respect you,
you've made it.
You've made it. You have absolutely made it. So, hi Brent. Thanks for being on. Thanks for being on here. Brent's not going to know how to handle this episode because we have strong feelings about Brent. Let's just be clear. We do.
Oh, I feel so good.
That's good.
I can't wait.
I'm so glad. So, Brent, here's the deal. We amongst many reasons we have you on, I think the one thing that we're going to be talking about, and this is kind of a preview episode for this, or what we're going to be discussing in 2022, because we're going to have you back on at various points throughout the year, is really talking about the topic that everyone loves to discuss, but really in the area of financial health, of thinking, of being wise, bringing a wisdom framework to our finances. And again, this is me as someone who just feels like I'm a big rookie in the financial world of like even how to handle my own stuff correctly. It's part of this whole adulting thing, which I feel like I should be farther along on. So we want to talk about that.
You did shave your beard though, so you're like 10 years younger.
That's right.
So.
Yeah. That's right. Gosh. Okay.
You're gonna get that several times through this episode.
Okay. Well, thank you. But before we dive into just kind of the preview of the things that we're going to be talking about on the financial spectrum and your work with Everence, I would just love to hear, as we always do, the official dad stats. Tell us about yourself, your family, the things that you enjoy doing, maybe a hobby or two, because we always like to know about that. We've kind of previewed that a little bit. Just give us a little bit of the down low on who Brent Miller is.
Sure. Well, I'm married to my wife, Christy, and my dad's stats is I have two boys. Jackson is 12. Colton is my youngest. He's 9. As far as I had lots of hobbies before the boys got old.
That's right. And they steal them from you.
And then now my hobbies are chasing them around and almost a professional driver for them.
Yep.
But no, I like to golf from time to time and enjoy working outside. And but yeah, I with both boys being actively involved with different stuff, it kind of doubles the time commitment when they're doing all these different things and being involved. So.
There are days where you do feel like a professional taxi driver.
You should become an Uber driver and then just charge them for it, and maybe they'd stop going places.
When you're sitting there for an hour and a half waiting for practice to be done, how many rides could you get in?
That's exactly right. So many opportunities. Yeah, and with doing the work that you do in our community here specifically, like. Because I know there's some other non-for-profits that you have helped out with or that you've been involved with, and remind me what those are because I'm going to blank on them now.
Sure. Yeah, I'm on the board for Big Brothers Big Sisters of Elkhart County.
We're a big fan.
Yep.
One of our last guests was.
That's right. Yeah.
And then also on the board with Salvation Army. Okay. I had. My previous part of my career at Everence, I had worked on in our national market and had kind of worked all across the country and traveled quite a bit for my role. One of the things that I always was frustrated with is I just couldn't be involved within the community. Mm-hmm. So when I came over and worked or started to be the managing director for our local market, that's the first thing I jumped at was getting involved with some local causes that were important to me. And so I've been on the board for both of them for going on 5 years now.
So managing director, we're Andy and I love fancy job titles, and we're always just trying to get below. What does it all really mean?
Joel, I've given you the title of podcast relations. So
yeah, and I don't know what that means. We have a multi-staff set up here. Clearly, a lot of resources to be managed around here. In your role specifically, just tell us about kind of the scope of your role. What is it you do?
So I am licensed to be a financial advisor. That's how I started off my career, both at another organization, and then I've been with Everence for It'll be my 21st anniversary this February. So
that's awesome.
And that's what we love about Everence is that there's a lot of long timers in there. Yeah.
And so my title is the managing director. And so I am in charge of all things Everence. And the challenge with Everence is we're not just a banking organization. We're not just an investment organization. We do banking, insurance, investments, all across the board. So I'm kind of in charge of working with each of the specialists in those areas and getting us to work well together and do things within the community.
So tell us a little bit about how you got involved with financial stuff in the beginning. Like what made you go, hey, this would be great to do?
Wow, that's a good question, and I wish that there was this just amazing backstory with that. It was really just what I went into. I knew that I liked money and I liked numbers and I liked that type of stuff, and it's really all I've ever done.
Sure.
And so, it is something that has grown on me, but yeah, it wasn't. I didn't have this epiphany when I was 10 years old that I wanted to help people with money and things like that. So yeah.
So, in the role that you play, and this is something, and like in thinking even in terms of like a lot of the advisors, when you encounter families, when you just think about families specifically, what do you feel like is the common when you're bringing Everence as an organization, when you're bringing the resources and the things that Everence does to a family that's trying to right the ship in their financial health, what do you see as some of the primary challenges that have to be dealt with initially? Because I know for myself, it was like the day where I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to, for lack of a better term, I got to get naked here. I got to get naked.
Yeah.
And we've got to do a deep dive into a lot of things. And people don't like talking about their finances.
Yeah,
that's the thing. Because there's a little bit of it is a counselor relationship that you kind of enter into.
Well, and I think it does vary so much. And I think one of the things that I like to do when I was an advisor and working with families is how we grew up around money and what we saw. And there's so much that influences all those things. And then you have a husband and a wife who had it could have very different backgrounds with that. And so I think a lot of it is just communicating. And so it kind of, it really is. I've seen very young, all the way into high school, kids that get very interested in that. It's kind of that head in the sand type moment. Like, all of a sudden somebody takes it out and they want to talk about it and they want to kind of be open about it. And you've seen that all across the board. You've seen people go through their whole 20s, their whole 30s, and start to have kids, and they just really have never talked about money or shared kind of their personal beliefs about money too. So a lot of it has to do with talking and just verbalizing what it is that people are thinking about.
What do you feel like is the biggest misconception about? Because I know, I think back to the conversation that Jackie and I had first, when we're like, okay, we're going to reach. Okay, we already know Everence. We have some connection with them with our companies that we had worked for. But it's like, okay, we're going to contact a financial advisor. We're going to take this step. But there was this moment where it was just like, okay, why now? Like, why haven't we, why not to, and then there's this thing of like, okay, this feels really big and heavy and all of that, and a little bit scary, I guess, in some sort of way, which, to be clear, it hasn't been any of those things. It's been good. And like, we're still in process of, I think, of even stepping into it further. What would you say to offer some comfort and direction to somebody who's thinking about taking the step toward financial health and having a partner come in, having a financial advisor, having someone come in from Everence? What would you say is like, how would you just maybe soften that blow a little bit for them or offer some encouragement?
Yeah, that's a great question, Joel. And I think a lot of times money it just kind of gets put on the back burner. And you think about, we talk a lot in our Evans circles about stewardship, and there's a lot of different things: stewardship of our health, stewardship of, relationships, things like that, stewardship of our relationship with God.
Yep.
And I think, even in those situations, part of that is a journey. It's a walk. Mm-hmm. And part of it is there's hard times but there's times where you have to kind of just put in the work. And I think money is no different than that. I really think it does have to have that moment where you really have to kind of think about it. It's not just, I'm going to think about this every 30 days when bills are done. This has got to be a weekly, a daily type thing of choosing kind of to monitor, where does my money go? And so I think there's this attitude or this mindset that has to happen for that to start. And I think that can happen all across the board. And I do think that there's certain situations, I run into older folks that have, neglected something for maybe 10 years. And I think a lot of times they get disparaged that, but they can start. Yeah. And you may not be able to complete 100% of the goals that you wanted to accomplish. You just got to kind of pare that back a little bit. Sure. And it's no different than weight loss, like that type of thing. It has to be a mindset type thing.
Yeah. So I think one of the things especially for younger married couples, who are fresh married, they look at that and go, okay, I'm living on really tight budget. Like, what can you speak to those people who maybe go, I can't afford a financial advisor? What advantage, like, what would you say to that couple there?
That's another great question, and it really is. It does come down to, again, starting where you're at, and I think it's probably even more important at that stage to communicate. Sure. That whole idea of communication and kind of being on board, being on the same page there. And so I think the first thing that they can do is just make sure that they're on the same page. Yeah. And I think it's really easy when it is week to week. It's really easy to set yourself back by one bad mistake or just taking 30 days off. And all of a sudden you're like, this is going to take us 6 months to get caught back up and this and that. So it's even probably more important, maybe not talking with the financial advisor in kind of, putting in elaborate steps to do that, but the talking and the making sure that this is front and center for our relationship.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I've noticed that for me personally in my relationship with my wife, like when we're doing that, when we're talking, when we're sitting down and doing the finances together, it's better overall for us. Yeah. We're on the same page and things go better.
Yeah. I felt like with Jackie and I, the moment, and this was something that like I just, because I had both consciously and subconsciously avoided, when I took the step and reached out for an advisor to come to sit down with us and just kind of walk through kind of our initial steps and toward a plan. If she listens to this episode and tells me that I'm wrong about this, then, well, no one else will hear it. It sounds good right now as we're saying it, but I feel like it was an investment into our relationship, though. I do feel like there was how shall I say this? A little bit of there's kind of a gratefulness or even a releasing of tension between us around the issue of finances. Cause it's like, okay, I see that you're taking a step to be serious about this. And it's like, I don't know. It's just, it's weird. I think about my counseling practice. Like when I have premarital couples come in, it's not like in some of the assessment work that we do, finances is in there, but it is just not. And that's my one frustration with one of the systems that I use. It's not talked about nearly to the level it ought to be, we don't kind of peel back the onion as much as possible, because I think once you start doing some digging, I mean, you alluded to this earlier, our thoughts about money, the family of origin that we come from, and how, especially if there's been, experiences of like if one family has been more affluent or more, they've been more in the business world and there's been a more complicated financial structure, and the other was like, yeah, we were like poor living in the woods and the heat got shut off, kind of thing. Like those can be some significant differences. But just in general, like the whole idea of stewardship as well. One of the questions that does get asked with some of the work that I do is basically like, how do you think about giving? And is it it's really interesting to see couples where some couples are like, I think that's part of a healthy relationship is that we're giving, and the other person is like, it's my money. Why would I want to give that away? On the topic of stewardship, of thinking about giving, and again, because this is what I love about Everence is that there is such a focus and an intentional thought about, listen, we're not about hoarding resources. We are about managing them to the greatest outcome for the greatest number of people. What if you were to kind of give a help, lay out a picture for a vision of healthy stewardship, how to think about that and how to encourage people toward it? What are some steps? What are some maybe myths or things like that exist for a lot of people?
Yeah. Oh, we could put this into a mini series.
Yeah.
I could go on and on with that. And I think again, it's the idea that, that also is kind of a journey for a lot of different people. And it starts off, slow and kind of, methodical about that. But the numbers, it's more a mindset, of giving and what that looks like. But again, you hit the nail on the head. That's an important one, especially when you're dealing with family type issues, that you kind of both get on the same page and you both kind of give a little bit to say, okay, well, I get where you're coming from. Maybe we don't go all the way there with our giving plan, et cetera. So I do think that does change. And you see that a lot in life cycles, when, kids are young versus kids are older, mom and dad are kind of growing in their career. And then the empty nest happens, and then all of a sudden that's kind of like, oh, like what's going on? I was paying for school and all this other stuff here. Now what do we do? And that's where people can kind of really take a step back and say, okay, we've already in a way been disciplined enough by, paying for all these things rather than just go, let's go vacation crazy here.
Right. Yeah.
Let's redo our budget here and say, what do we want to do in this next phase of our life now that this money has been freed up? And so that's where it really changes for people. And you start to see numbers start to increase as far as charitable giving. And I think it's also a process of getting to know like what you're passionate about.
Yeah.
I think a lot of our volunteer time happens in the beginning with our time, and we give to organizations with our time because that's what people can. But then when it starts to come to finances, people are like, oh, they get a little bit more, they want to think a little bit more about that. But it does take time and energy to kind of invest and make sure that I'm giving to organizations, et cetera, and do a little bit of research there. But that's where a financial planner and working with an advisor does help, because, we are kind of trained, and that's kind of what we kind of help do is kind of bring that out of people.
Yep.
Of what are you passionate about? What have you thought about doing and you've never done?
Well, and I think too, that helps, especially when you're having like two, a husband and a wife, where the financial the financial advisor is kind of an outside person where they can look and say, okay, both of you, instead of just
it's always good to have a neutral third party.
Yeah.
And I often wonder, I've heard this said many a times, of getting in the habit of giving as early as possible. Whatever. Maybe you've got a rate, like I know Jackie and I did earlier on, we would have done this to a certain degree where it's like, don't have a lot of extra money, but it was a little side account essentially for when a need amongst one of our, like someone within our faith community or whatever came up. It was like that. Okay. We had something that was designated for giving to for that purpose. And I just think, like, if you say to yourself, okay, I'll start giving, I'll enter into the habit of giving one day, I think that one day just keeps getting pushed farther and farther away.
It's no different than in another kind of thing that people always think about is their 401k. Giving to my 401k, it comes out of my paycheck, and I defer a amount right then and there. I think this day and age, it's actually a little bit easier than even back in the 10 years ago. Even just the ease of being able to set up bank payments to go in. And that's, again, the counseling part of that is just start. If it's $10 a week, if it's $20 a month, whatever it is, start with that, be consistent about that. And then change over time. They've even come out with almost charitable checking accounts now called donor advised funds that you can put money into there. I don't know what charity I want to give to yet, but I want to get into this idea that I'm putting money into a charitable type thing.
I like it.
And again, that can be done for a very small amount, and it can be start to become a habit for people.
Yep.
Sure.
Yeah, it's habit forming in so much of our life, in all kinds of ways of our health, or just holistically. And I'm kind of on this. I'm trying to get on this gig mostly because I have fallen. Just a moment of honesty here. I have fallen out of the habit of just physical wellness in general, and really just trying to get. I'm just trying to get back on the. Like I keep on saying, like I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. But it's like, it's so interesting to me when you get into the habit of something. The amount of energy and focus that you have to give it. It does begin to kind of regulate a little bit. The initial step can feel kind of big and can feel kind of scary. It can feel maybe potentially painful.
But after that, I mean, if you get into a habit, it starts to get easier and better.
And habit forming, I mean, then again, so much of, like, we all have habits. It's just which ones which ones we're going to keep on reinforcing, keep on pushing toward. Brent, I would love for you to tell us, as we're looking forward and just in our partnership with Everence, and here's the deal. I want to say this
I don't think you mentioned that even yet.
Yes, I'm gonna mention it. I think for us in this podcast, I mean, one of the biggest things that we've always valued is, number one, is just sharing stories, building community. But we want to offer value. We want to offer things that are meaningful and helpful to people. We hope that people come away from this podcast more informed and in a better place and challenged. And one of the things that we've not touched up on to this point, and I think moving forward we want to, is financial health is health. It is connected to so many things. I said it before we started recording here tonight. Like, I know when in my counseling office, when I have a couple that comes in and they are in crisis of some sort, there's a friction between the two of them. It usually falls in one of three categories: sex, drugs or substance abuse of some sort, or something like that, or money.
I thought you were going to say rock and roll.
Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And finances. I mean, financial unhealth is a big contributor to just a lot of division, a lot of mistrust. I've had, it's like, this has been a little while ago. I've had the phone call that's come in or the email that's come in to be like, hey, is it normal, like a newly married couple, is it normal for my husband to want to maintain all separate finances from me? And it's like, well, I guess depends. I'm like, well, that sounds like a trust issue, And then you begin, it uncovers all different kinds of things. So we here at this show, the reason this partnership we think is really, really meaningful is it speaks to one of the key issues of helping dudes and dads be better dudes and dads, and be more available for their family, more intentional in investing in health. So Brent, as we look forward to this coming year in our partnership and the conversations we're going to continue to have, talk to me about kind of the big categories of what we are going to be talking about. This is kind of our preview, what we're going to be talking about, what we're going to be diving into, so that this will be our teaser for our listeners for 2022.
Well, I think the big thing that we also we've been talking a lot on the spouse standpoint. And we'll obviously that's a big thing that we want to commit to kind of being helping and bringing information to. But the other part is we have little eyes watching us. Going to the dad's part of this is our actions are being reflected back to our kids, and it's kind of painting an image for them of what that looks like for them. So I think we're also, I would love to kind of talk a little bit more about how to talk to kids about money and just little things that we could do there to kind of help kind of pass some things along that maybe mom and dad wished that they had been taught when they were younger. And really, I think it may be good to hear from the listeners too, to kind of hear what they would like to hear about from a financial standpoint too.
So that brings up a good point, guys. If you do want to shoot us an email or a voicemail, we would love to hear that. Get an idea of what you guys want to hear about finances. Our voicemail number is 574-213-8702. Again, a voicemail only. We're not gonna answer.
We don't answer.
574.
We do. You leave a message. We listen to it later, and then we may or may not, depending if you got a creepy voice, we may or may not put it on the air.
Again, that's 574-213-8702.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think that's a cool thing. I got to be honest with you. Like when it comes to talking to my kiddos about money, that'll be a good one. Because I just know that so many times it's like I'm just reminded that my children have no concept of finances. They don't know how much and this is the thing, and I'm not sure, like, because Jack and I have talked, we've said, like, I don't want to burden my kids with the money thing, but like, doggone it. And Brent will connect. I'm like, when I buy Aaron this baseball bat, he needs to know that when he breaks it, it's like, that's a lot of money that just like went away.
Well, so, it's also night and day different than what our parents went through, with that. And you are having to take, virtual transactions. And again, it goes all back to communication and talking about money. I think just communicating with your kids is the first step about talking about bills and what are bills and why, how do we pay for this house? How do we pay for this car? And helping them understand that and integrating them into that process somehow, some way. Again, slowly kind of introducing them to that lifestyle.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't have to be terrible. We can, dare I say, it might even be enjoyable. Eventually.
Well, Joel, you did allude to it that we are in a partnership with Everence here, and I'm really excited because we have plans to have at least 3 episodes this next year with an Everence staff and just talking about finances and issues like that. So I'm really excited. So yeah,
and again, I think we not that we have a ton of. I put it this way: Andy and I want to be selective about the people, because let's just be clear, we think we have the greatest hobby in the entire world. Like, and when we do this show, it was like, I know when we started off, it was like, whatever. Would we ever have a financial partnership with anybody? I don't know. When this opportunity came along, it's just like, this is so much of who we are. Andy and I both experience firsthand just the value that Everence brings to this community, what they care about. It's what our heartbeat is as well. And the fact that Everence is not just local. It is would you say you're national? Really,
we are. We have clients in all 50 states.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
So it's no matter, we have listeners all over the place. So like no matter where you are.
Yep.
So we hope that in this conversation that we're all able to sort of open the hood on Everence as well, and just kind of expose people to, I think, and you're used to representing the whole organization, so no pressure, but like just to get a sense of the value of the organization, what you guys care about, what you offer, and that it's not some stuffy. My experience has been a very relational one. It's been one where it's just like you said, meeting people where they're at, talking about a thing that most people don't like to talk about, but I think doing it in a way that is way less painful than anything that I initially in my head imagined. So we're really excited, Brent, honestly. Like it's going to be a good thing. I think it's going to be helpful. Let's see, Andy, what do we do now? Where are we
now
at?
It's time for the Dudes and Dads Pop Quiz.
Nailed it. Okay. There we go.
So those of you who have never joined us, Dudes and Dads Pop Quiz is the time that we just grill Brent with random questions. We have cards that we are picking out here, and I will go ahead and start this one here.
Here we go.
Hey, is it bad that I'm a fan of the podcast?
Nope.
And I was totally fine with coming on and talking about finances tonight, but I was like, man, they're gonna grill me over these questions.
Nope.
Man, there we go.
That's right. And that's the thing. Most people seem like they're fine, and then when we tell them about this part, it's like, ooh. So
and then they start sweating. Everything else is fine until this, but.
Brent handles pressure well. He'll be fine. Let's go.
I'll go ahead and start this off here. What characteristic, Brent, are you most known for?
Characteristic. I would say that whether it's coaching my son and being in baseball setting, or if it's, being out with friends, I like to have fun.
10-4.
Yeah.
Mr. Fun Guy over
I
here.
like to have fun.
Yeah. Okay, Brent, here we go. What will people look back at us 50 years from now and be shocked or appalled by? So us, I guess, just as a whole society. When you think, who's going to look back 50 years and be like, they did what? What do you think it'll be?
Huh. That's a really good question. I'm trying to think what is
what's mildly appalling now that you think will be majorly appalling in 50 years?
TikTok.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be it could be our look at social media and how, it'd be interesting to see if social media totally changes, down the road, how that looks like. Mm-hmm. And you've already seen it changing. I can imagine us looking back on that and be like, I can't believe we used to do that.
They did dances?
They did what? With mother and daughter? Coordinated dances? What are you talking about?
So strange. Yeah. And you know what, to that point though, I do think, which is a conversation, this is a whole separate conversation about the fact that the internet is forever and what you put out on it remains.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to ask, I'm offline, I'm going to ask Brent how many people he's either had to let go or did not hire because of their poor social media choices. Okay, keep on going. Here we go.
All right, Brent, who would play you in a movie?
Oh, who would play me in a movie?
That's the best.
Oh, it is. Oh, let's go. I'm trying to think of somebody that's cool.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Let's go Bradley Cooper.
Oh, okay. Bradley Cooper.
Yeah.
That's not a bad choice.
But I look nothing like Bradley Cooper. That's why it is kind of weird.
See, it's partly an incriminating question because you're like, who does this dude think he is?
Yeah,
no, I know we're rocking a hard place.
Yeah.
If you had to teach a class on one thing, what would you teach?
A class on one thing. Are we going traditional classes?
Anything. Anything. It's your University of Phoenix.
It would obviously be finance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you think so?
Yeah, I think so.
All right.
I love that he doubled down on this. This is good because we know that he's like full on committed to this. Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
What's left on your bucket list?
Oh, what's left on my bucket list?
I guess that's assuming you have a bucket list.
I have a bucket list. It's pretty big.
Good.
He's just gonna start naming everything.
Yeah, I gotta. I really want to at some point, if we can ever leave the country again, I want to go to Australia.
Awesome.
But
Australia is a weird place right now.
Yeah,
it is. I never thought I would say. I always generally feel like of all people that I feel, that's right. Of all people I feel like I could get along with really well, it's like an Aussie, right? Like you just go to Australia, like everybody's like, hey, good day, like it's whatever. Australia's hard to, you can't get into Australia right now, actually, period. Brent, which words or phrases do you most overuse?
That I most overuse.
That you can say on the show.
I've been told either in my family setting and work setting that I encourage people a lot. Well, I'll encourage you to, and they say that I say it over and over.
That's
again
like a super. So it's a little bit of a passive aggressive.
It is.
Term.
Apparently,
I want to strongly encourage you.
Yeah, I'm encourage you
because I know I use that term when I'm trying to tell somebody, listen, get your act together.
Yeah. And when the boys aren't doing their chores, I'm gonna encourage. Right now, you're not listening, but I'm gonna encourage you that you might want to take some time.
That's right.
To actually get these things done.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. And my last question is: you have $100,000 you have to donate to or create a charity. What do you donate, or what do you do? Sorry, let me read that again. I really butchered that one.
Oh boy!
You have $100,000. You have to donate or create a charity. What do you do?
Oh man, I like the whole create. Man, I love kids mentoring, and the easy answer would be like mentoring, like big brothers, big sisters. But I'm gonna say I'm going to say an athletic complex, like some sort of community athletic complex, kind of like a little league or something like that. I don't think Goshen has real great facilities.
Well, and that's kind of a apart from major metropolitan areas or things like that, it's kind of a challenge and issue in general. So, and by the way, Brent and I would agree on this. Most of the good things that happened in my life or the development that I experienced as just a human being in general happened on an athletic field of some sort.
And we spend so much time at other cities' athletic complexes. It'd be nice to be like, you know what, this one time I can actually go home and sleep in my own bed and it'd take me 10 minutes to get home. That'd be pretty crazy.
Here's the deal. I'm just a side note here.
Mm-hmm.
When you're this is my number one pet peeve. I'm just going to be full honest. When with travel baseball, when we're staying in other places, Brent, I just want to find one hotel that doesn't smell like weed all the time.
Oh.
Why is it? And we're not staying in bad hotels. No. And it's like, what do people go, hotel, time for me to really really toke up. I don't get it. It didn't used to be this way. And we're not in a state where it's even like legal. Like if, I don't know, if it was in California, I get it. Like whatever, it's wherever. But I can't find a non-weed smelling hotel room for travel baseball. I don't know what my problem is.
Smells are a lot, and it's that, and someone you always stay in the room with somebody had like Thai the night before, and it just reeks of like whatever food that they had last night. And
I mean, I love curry, not in my hotel room.
Yeah,
that's good. Okay, Brent, just to get get dark here. When you die, what do you want? Because you will die.
Yep.
What do you want to be remembered for?
Oh.
Told you again.
Oh man, this is a deep one.
I know.
Man, I think I feel like ever since my oldest is 12, and I would probably say that you go through life and kids obviously change you, and I do think ever since my kids have been born, it's just kind of recognizing that I won't be here forever, and my kids will have to carry that on. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really led me into coaching and mentoring and just being involved with my boys, as I have this kind of innate, like, I just want them to be good kids, good contributors to society.
Yes.
And I think I would love for people to say, you know what, he gave a lot back, awesome. Whether it was in my career or whether it was with coaching, things like that.
Awesome.
Yep. Because here's the deal. Wow.
That was
Andy, you're getting really fancy with the sound effects over there.
You've passed the Dudes and Dads pop quiz.
Well done. Yes. Nailed it. Right. Nailed it.
Now, do I have to do this again if I come back on?
You know what? I think what we'll do, Andy, offline, we'll have to figure out what, we won't like grill him with like a ton of questions each time, but I think we'll have like, and now we'll have like a question, but we're gonna take some time.
Let him quiz us.
I would love it.
Okay.
If
so we're gonna mix it up.
As part of what I will give back to this, I'll give the listeners some questions.
They're like, it's about time someone turned the tables. That's so good. Well, friends, you've managed to hang with us this entire time. It's been a lot of fun. I think it's fun here. I'm thinking it's probably gonna sound like fun on the other side. It sounds. I mean, if Andy's done his job correctly in producing this show. Andy, make it sound more fun. What is there a setting on the board?
I'm just going to pull your slider down right now.
Well done. But honestly, Brent, thank you for joining us, man. We're excited about 2022 and the ongoing conversations that we're going to have. And Andy, like we're having a lot of fun with this show. And I should say also, Brent got to be part of we're going to say officially it's our 60th episode that we've put out. This episode's number 60, which you know what that means, Andy? Cheap coffee at McDonald's for the show. That's
because we're now seniors.
That's right. We've crossed the line. So Brent, thanks for being on number 60 with us. Hey, everybody, as always, you can go over to dudesandadspodcast.com, check out the show notes that we'll have on there, because we're going to have some love all of the things over there. You can shoot us a line, dudesandadspodcast@gmail.com. with all of your rave reviews, harsh criticisms, whatever you want to do. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe, share.
On all of your socials.
On all of the socials. Do all of that stuff. And Andy, is there anything else that I haven't told our people to do yet?
Go have a good day.
Oh, that's perfect. Okay, guys, until next time, we wish you grace
and peace.